The healthcare industry has been called a cemetery for innovation, but Anderson-based SyncMD has developed a new app to help improve the healthcare delivery system by giving patients a convenient, secure way to control their own medical records.
We all know when we show up in doctor's office or one of our loved ones is showing up at doctor's office and they just don't have the documentation that doctors need to perform a particular service. And the results are horrible because they lead in simple cases, they lead to rescheduling and cancellation of appointments and so on. In bad situations, they lead to medical mistakes, and that's the cause number 3 actually, is between number 3 and number 4, the cause of death today in the United States overall.
Luskin calls the lack of access to personal health records a healthcare emergency, citing studies that show emergency rooms can obtain the records needed to immediately treat patients only about 20% of the time. Another 20% of ER patient records are received within about 48 hours, which is often too late, and the remaining 60% of patients' records are never received. Patients have full rights to their own medical records, with healthcare providers obligated to provide those records in the form and format requested. With more than 650 electronic medical record systems on the market and no connectivity between them, record sharing between healthcare providers is not possible. That's why SyncMD developed a tool that allows patients to collect, store, view, and share their personal health records.
You as a patient, you download the app, you can send the record release request to a hospital that never heard of SyncMD. That's the idea, because you cannot integrate with all those systems. You cannot spend next 10 years trying to go through every single agreement with every single hospital. We're providing services to patients. It becomes patients' tool to collect, store, view, and share records with anyone.
Those who have a medical emergency at home or while traveling, patients seeking a second opinion, or those wishing to change doctors benefit from having all their medical information in one place. And according to research, mobile personal health records improve healthcare quality and lower costs. For example, a patient might see physicians and specialists at multiple locations during treatment, but without an efficient way to share information between them, tests are often repeated. Avoiding unnecessary medical procedures saves time, money, and lowers a patient's exposure to risks associated with tests such as X-rays. To get started, smartphone users can download the SyncMD app from the App Store or go to syncmd.com and scan a QR code with their phone's camera. Users will be prompted to scan their driver's license and sign onto the screen. Then they can specify which provider they wish to request records from. Users also can use the app while requesting records in person at a provider's office. The healthcare provider simply goes to the SyncMD website and the patient scans the QR code displayed on the screen with his or her phone. That syncs the patient's phone with the provider's computer. Documents can be dragged and dropped into the computer's browser, with records immediately transferred to the patient's smartphone. The SyncMD app is free. However, patients will pay an average of $6.50 per release of records, a typical fee for the release of medical records in printed form. A former 20-year associate of Microsoft, Luskin holds several patents focused on data security, and more than half of SyncMD's technical team has expertise in securing and protecting data.
One thing that would kill this business is if we have a massive data leak or data hack that we couldn't prevent. This is one of the reasons why our security is way above anything that is mandated by this industry and by regulations. In addition to obviously securing databases and everything related to that, every personal patient's record is secured separately, is encrypted separately. So we're taking specific precautions on how to prevent any kind of massive or mass hackers attacks on what we do. This is almost a religion inside the company, you know.
SyncMD was founded 8 years ago in Seattle, Washington by professionals from the healthcare and technology industries. Company officials were invited by U.S. Congressman Jeff Duncan of South Carolina to look at moving the company to the Palmetto State. SyncMD moved its headquarters to Anderson in 2021.
Honestly saying, we just fell in love with this place. And less than a year ago, we made the decision to move the entire business here. I never imagined that something like this can exist from business perspective and personal perspective. So we were overwhelmed with everything that we saw here. I traveled a lot. I traveled a lot in many other countries. I traveled a lot in the last 20 years that I spent in the United States. This is by far the best place in the nation, from both business perspective and personal perspective.
For Luskin and his SyncMD associates, owning and growing a business that puts patients in control of their own health is the best perspective.
You know, I said from the very beginning of this company, my mom was a doctor. I grew up in a doctor's family. And I said, you know, we will be waking up sometime in the future knowing that some people didn't die yesterday because of what we have created. We actually are in that situation today. Just knowing what's going on. We know that we're saving lives. And you cannot have better compensation for what you're doing.
For more information, visit syncmd.com.